Sure, Dr. Swinton. Thank you again for giving me the great honor and privilege as the Graduate Economic Student Association President of introducing Dr. Nzinga Broussard, who is the president of NEA right now as well. I want to introduce her and give a bit of her bio, though she has a lot of accreditations, so I'll keep it short so y'all don't hear from me as much. But Dr. Broussard is a senior manager of research and evaluation at New Market Support Company, also known as NMSC, a leading community impact investor and impact fund services provider. At NMSC, and Dr. Broussard leads the research on NMSC's impact-focused areas of wealth creation, healthcare access, and quality jobs, and leads the evaluations of NMSC's finance projects. She's held various positions in academia, the private sector, and the public sector, and previously she served as the Director of Impact at the Global Innovation Fund, a nonprofit organization that invests in the development, rigorous testing, and scaling of innovations targeted at improving the lives of the world's poorest people. Dr. Broussard has a joint doctoral degree in economics and public policy from the University of Michigan, and a BA in economics from mathematics from Oberlin College. And so without any further ado, Dr. Broussard, please take it away.
Yes, thank you, Felipe. And just one correction, I am the NEA president-elect, so not the president yet. Yeah, so thank you for having me. The opportunity for me to come and talk with you has allowed me to reflect on my career and the professional choices I've made to date. So as a Black woman economist, I've experienced moments of feeling like a failure, an outsider, and invisible. Not just because I'm a Black woman economist and was often the only one in my professional circles, but because of the career choices I've made. I'm a Black American that chose to work in international development. Many, but not all, Black American economists work on domestic US issues and often on race issues. I also chose a career outside of academia and research, which has often meant that the challenges I faced in the private and public sector were not considered during discussions around the economics profession, which seems to be dominated by issues within academia. But I'm happy to say that along the way, I found a career that I'm passionate about, and that is what I want to talk to you about. How did I get here? So to start, we have to go back to my decision to pursue a PhD in economics. At the time, I knew I enjoyed economics, which to me was just applied math. So slightly different from what Dean Patterson had said. I was definitely interested in how economics could be applied to social issues, but I started off with a passion for math. And my first economics course introduced me to applied math. And that was what really prompted me to continue taking more and more econ courses. And I wanted to do more of it. However, I was not sure what that meant as a career. What I did know was that I did not want to be a professor. And I assumed that the graduate program would introduce me to all the options available to economists, in addition to training me as an economist. So I should mention about now that I was a college athlete. And so the time that I could have been exploring career options, I was either on the basketball court or on the track field. So what I eventually learned was that top PhD programs like mine are training future knowledge creators to go on to academia. So I also learned that to say that you were not interested in academia could put your funding and support at risk. So as you can imagine, I was encouraged to take an academic position, and I learned very little about what other options there were for me, other than a career in research. So my first job after the PhD program was as an assistant professor at a small, prestigious liberal arts college in Southern California. For a number of reasons, I confirmed my initial sentiment that academia was not for me. I struggled with teaching and getting my research published and felt like I did not have enough real-world experience to bring into the classroom. So as I mentioned earlier, I'm a development economist, and a lot of my research had focused on poverty issues in Africa. I did not have extensive in-country experience, and most of my experience was in analyzing large data sets. Additionally, I did not have many peers that I could discuss my research with and co-author with, so I felt like my research was unimportant. It is also worth noting that during this time, the development economics field was dominated by economists conducting randomized controlled trials, or RCTs. My work did not consist of RCTs, so I was not part of what's called the in crowd of development economists. So that feeling of feeling like an outsider was really, really prominent for me. So feeling like a failure, I made the decision that I needed to leave academia. Additionally, I felt like research was just not an option for me because I thought my research was no good. So the two things I was trained to do, I felt I had failed at. Additionally, I had come to the conclusion that I did not have any other skills. Fortunate for me, I had the opportunity to do a 2-year postdoc near my hometown, which allowed me to delay applying for a job at CVS, as I thought I could easily become a cashier. So I had an aunt that worked at CVS, and I figured, I could move back home and she could help get me a job at CVS. So that was the plan, but the postdoc delayed that for a couple of years. A couple of things happened while I was doing my postdoc that helped build my confidence. The first was that some of my research started to get accepted and published in econ journals. And the second was that I had the opportunity to oversee a research program in Ethiopia. So at the time, most of my research was on challenges faced in Ethiopia, and this is this is how the opportunity had presented itself. This allowed me to spend 4 months in Ethiopia with researchers and government officials that were really interested in my work. I realized I needed to be around other development economists working in Africa. What I also realized was that my feelings of my work not being worthwhile was driven by a lack of colleagues working in similar topic areas. I needed to be around people doing similar work. Outside of being based somewhere in Africa, I thought DC would be an ideal place to get exposure to the multitude of options for development economists and will allow me to travel and do in-country work. DC had the federal agencies working in development. It had multilateral organizations like the World Bank and the IMF, consulting organizations, and research organizations. I was willing to start my career over outside of academia, but I wanted to stay in development and needed to be in an environment where I could network and see what other development economists were working on. After the postdoc, I received an offer to work at a consulting organization that was based in DC. While they did have a small international development division, it was struggling to get work, and they made it clear to me that I would not be working on international projects. Now, remember, I just needed to get a job that would bring me to DC, so I was willing to accept anything. But I was excited about this opportunity. However, I was also scared. I was not working in development. I had not had extensive experience writing proposals, managing teams, and other responsibilities that came with the job. Fortunately for me, I learned pretty quickly that there were a number of skills that I did have that I was just unaware of, and that I was also able to quickly master new skills. I was working on a health project and leading a team on a project on pharmaceutical drugs, something I knew nothing about and still know very little about. But as I said, I was able to learn about the skills that I possess while also acquiring new skills. This job built my confidence and allowed me to set specific goals for what I wanted to accomplish in my career within the next 5 years. And while I loved working there and my colleagues, I knew I needed to leave in order to pursue my career goals in international development. And I appreciate my time at that job, even though it was a short period. But like I said, it really allowed me to build my confidence. So I ended up taking a research position with a federal organization to work on global food insecurity. My goal was to publish several papers in top econ journals so I could get a research position at one of the top international development research organizations based in DC. So for the next 3 years, I accomplished all the tasks I had set for myself to achieve my goal. I was invited to interview at the 2 research institutions that I was aiming for. However, I did not receive offers. And while it was disappointing, I did not feel like there was more that I could do to better position myself for those positions. And in my defense, these were extremely difficult positions to get. So I had to come up with a plan B. The federal agency that I was working for at the time had a small division that did international development work. However, we were starting to receive signals that our division was going to be shut down or merged with another division. And so the ability to do much of the work that I was doing would probably go away. So I decided to take a position at the Millennium Challenge Corporation. And when I really talk about my passion, I like to start at MCC. MCC is a U.S. Foreign Development Assistance Agency. Many of you may not know of MCC, but you're probably familiar with USAID. You can think of MCC as USAID's sister agency, just a lot smaller and more selective about the countries that they work in. So I worked at MCC as an economist. My responsibilities included conducting analyses to identify the constraints to private sector investment in developing countries, conducting analyses to understand the root causes of the constraints that would serve as the bases for selecting investment opportunities, and conducting cost-benefit analyses to calculate economic rate of returns to ensure that the social benefits of an investment exceeded the cost of the project. The analyses I conducted at MCC felt tangible and made me feel like I was using my skills in a way that was impactful. It provided me with a set of tools for how I communicate the potential impact of an investment or project. I left MCC to join the Global Innovation Fund, GIF. So GIF is an impact-first organization that invests in innovations that improve the lives of people living on less than $5 a day. It was my introduction into the space of impact investing. Investments made with the intention to generate positive, measurable social and/or environmental impact alongside a financial return. One of the key features of impact investing is measuring the impact performance of an investment and/or a portfolio of investments. What I found in impact investing is how I can use my skills as an economist and the tools I use at MCC to inform the investment decision, to determine the potential social impact of an investment, and to calculate the social benefits of our investments. These skills and tools can be used for proposed solutions to increase agriculture productivity in rural Ethiopia, or for proposed solutions that will decrease the maternal mortality rate here in the US. So some of you may be thinking that this sounds a lot like conducting an impact evaluation, and you're right. But when working with for-profit companies, decisions need to be made in a relatively short period of time, maybe months, sometimes weeks, right? And also the business model might change. So what they might be doing this year might be slightly different from what they're doing next year, right? And the data collection can also come across as a burden for the company. And when I talk about data collection, I'm talking about the data to assess the impact, right? They're willing to collect all the financial data because they're required to, but asking a for-profit company to collect information on outcomes to see if they're having the achieved impact, you receive a lot of resistance. So the level of rigor and amount of time required for a well thought out impact evaluation is difficult to accomplish in the impact investing space. And being mindful of this, it is crucial to be able to offer guidance to the organization and be credible regarding the impacts. And as I said, my skills as an economist and the training and experience that I had really allowed me, in my opinion, to excel in this space. So I'm happy to say that I found my passion using my skills as an economist to help for-profit organizations that want to do good for society measure their impact. I had to take risks and be willing to pivot when something was not working for me. I did not follow the norm or what might have been expected, but I did follow my passion. And so as I conclude, I hope that each one of you also find the career that you are most passionate about and chase that passion. Thank you.
Thank you, Nzinga. So now we have an opportunity for questions, and Felipe is going to help facilitate any of those questions that come in either through the chat, or you can just go ahead, Felipe.
Thank you, Dr. Swinton. Dr. Broussard, that was great. I think hearing your story was just very monumental to me and to everyone probably in the audience. But I do have a question just off, just thinking about what you just shared. Who did you rely on when it came to, and maybe it's something I just wanted to hear again, but maybe I wanted to know, like, who did you rely on during these moments? If you know, you mentioned how you had a hard time finding collaborators, or you know, having, I guess, someone to talk to? Did you find individuals or folks outside of academia, or was it a mix of both? Who was it that was, I guess, like holding you down or being your support? No, seriously, I asked this because I feel this right now. So it's a question that I think is important, because I mean, we could read biographies all the time, but I think it's these kind of questions that make the difference and make that this journey a lot easier.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great question. And I think when we think about, you know, the intersectionality of who we are as individuals, right? I'm a Black American, I'm an economist, I'm a woman, right? And so I had different circles that I could call on and talk to for certain issues, right? Being a Black female, I could talk to other Black women economists, right? But there was always aspects of my career where I felt like I just didn't have that core group of individuals that fully related to what I was going through, right? So as I talked about early on, being a Black American working in Africa, right? It was really difficult to be able to talk to someone to understand the challenges that I was facing as just an American, right? You know, we're not seen as Black Americans when we're doing international development work. We're seen as Americans, but then also you also wear this other disguise as well as a Black person, right? And trying to find someone that you can talk to and relate to. So I never really found, I think, that core group of individuals that supported me in all the different challenges that I faced. But what I did find was that it was really about just making sure that I was in a comfortable space, in a comfortable environment, right? When academia was too much for me or too stressful for me, I pivoted and moved into another environment that seemed to be a little bit more welcoming, right? When I worked for the federal government, there was some aspect of it that was very welcoming, but there was also aspects to it that other people could not relate to. And so I kept moving around, as you all can see in my CV, and as I alluded to in my talk. But I do think that the space that I'm in right now allows me to leverage my experience and the passion, where I kind of feel like I'm leading the charge and can pull people into this space as opposed to looking for someone to pull me up into the space that they're working in that I can feel accepted into. Hopefully that made sense.
So Nzinga, someone sent me a direct question about, so how did you apply what you learned through participating in sports to be successful in the work field?
That is also a great question. Never give up. You will lose, you will fail. And at times when you want to quit, you know, there were several times in high school and college where I would call my mom up and be like, I'm not going to practice tomorrow. I'm done. I'm done. And she would always say, just give it one more day, right? And those feelings that you're feeling in the moment, that's exactly what they are. They're feelings that you feel in the moment. And if you can pick yourself up and give it one more day, right, you find out that there's ways that you can cope with it, right? So the joke that I had about applying to CVS, that's a true story, right? Like I wanted to give up entirely, move home. My sister and my brother were there, and a whole bunch of other people were living at home, and I just wanted to work at CVS, right? But I gave it one more day. I gave it another week, another month, and this is where I am now, and not working at CVS. So I think in short, you know, that ability to accept failures, accept losses, and keep going.
Are there any other questions? I definitely have a follow-up, but if any, while y'all think of other questions, I'm gonna have this follow-up if that's okay. Oh, actually, no. Dr. Grooms and Dr. Betsy, please feel free.
Hey, Nzinga, more of a
Hey,
statement. First, Derek, I think, played at Oberlin too, right?
Yes, he did.
Eric,
yes,
I didn't realize you played at Oberlin. I knew you played, but I didn't know you played at Oberlin. But I wanted to just say thank you, because I think right before COVID, or a couple of years before COVID, you came and spoke to the graduate students. And I remember being kind of my mind blown at the work you were doing, because I did some international work, but I never thought that that was the type of career path you can take with a PhD. And it just reminded me, you speaking to the students, you staying involved in the economic profession, which is mostly dominated by academia, is really important because it gives the students a sense of what they can do outside of academia. And some of us that are in academia don't even know what that looks like. So I just want to say thank you for not just talking, but being part of NEA and for being active in this space that's usually dominated by academics.
Yes, thank you.
So Nzinga, I'm glad that you were able to make it tonight. Really enjoyed your presentation. As a fellow Michigan alum, I'm gratified to see that you've accomplished so much, and our NEA president-elect. As you talked about feeling that you didn't have enough of a cohort, if you will, or a reference group that related to what you were going through. I know that at Michigan, that probably was also true because I've done some work on the small numbers of African Americans who's come through the Michigan Economics Department program. But also, as a Howard faculty member, I did do some international work, and I was struck by the comment you made about when you are doing international work. As a Black American, you are seen as an American, and that is something that really sort of rung home to me. So could you speak a little bit more about that in terms of the challenge that Americans have, African Americans or others, in terms of doing international work and being and how they're viewed?
Yeah, and I can only really speak on my personal experience, and I think over the last year I've been doing more domestic work on race issues, and what I find is that it's a little bit easier to talk about race issues in the U.S. as a Black American that might have experienced some of the things that we talk about, and be able to also be a participant in the discussion, as opposed to, I guess, someone saying this is what you should feel or this is why you feel that way, as an outsider imposing our beliefs on the population. And as a development economist, I always try to be very, very cognizant of that, also knowing that I may not fully understand, the lived experience of the communities that I was working with, because I wasn't from rural Ethiopia, right? Or I wasn't from Tunisia or the other countries that I was working on. And so just being a minority in the US did not grant me the privilege to say that I'm any different from maybe some of my white Western colleagues that I was working with. I always felt that because I was a Black American, I was cognizant of this, right? That I was trying to be mindful of how I approached my research. But it was always, for me, a very uncomfortable position to be in, where I could also see how my colleagues, particularly my white colleagues, engaged with, many of the people that we worked with, whether it's government officials or, potential beneficiaries of the program. And as I said, I was seen as an American. I wasn't seen as part of the community, right? And so you kind of have to take that as given as well, and that role that I had to play. So I'm not sure if I fully answered your question, but for me, it was just kind of this uncomfortable feeling that I always kind of carried with me as a development economist.
Bazad Everson Howe, I would like to thank you very much for that very impressive presentation that you've offered us. The several stops that you made in different areas I thought was quite interesting, because it created a diverse background with respect to what was going on in different areas. I happen to think that that's very, very important. In my own case, when I was an ambassador, I spent the last 7 years working on countries in Latin America, and got a fairly good sense as to what drives them and what they're concerned about. The specific question that I have for you is, having spent some time in the developing countries, can you point to 2 or 3 factors, dominant factors, that if you thought that those factors occurred, that you help to lift those countries out, bringing them closer to their high-priced productive potential? I've got a pretty good sense as to what's going on in Latin America. I think I've got a good sense as to what's troubling them and why you see these folks heading for the Mexico-US border. I think I've got a fairly good sense as to what's driving them. Can you point to just 2 or 3 factors that are really dominant in your mind as to what would lift this gate out?
Oh my goodness, that is a difficult question. And I'm gonna answer it this. I'm actually not gonna answer the question, but I'm gonna answer it this way. So one of the reasons why I left MCC, as much as I enjoyed the work, MCC's focus was very much on how we could make investment decisions that would promote growth. And the idea was that growth would trickle down and reduce poverty, right? So I'm an applied microeconomist, and I always struggled with that link between growth to poverty reduction, right? What type of growth do we need to see this reduction in poverty that's going to employ some of the most vulnerable and marginalized individuals in a country? So I don't have an answer for, I think, what you're looking for. I'm pretty sure my colleagues at MCC might have a list of things. But what I can say is that what I do enjoy in the impact investing space is that it's bringing in the private sector to identify innovative solutions that can help poor communities, poor individuals in developing countries. And I say innovative solutions is because the government is very, very risk averse, right? And so the government is always government and the multilateral organizations are investing in these traditional interventions. They're building schools, they're building hospitals, they're building roads, they're focused on the power sector, which is great. It's all very much needed. But oftentimes those things are not as effective at reducing poverty, or they're not doing a good enough job, right? And so I like to see my role as helping the private sector bring in more money and really identify some of these innovative solutions that can really disrupt what's going on in developing countries and really help us reduce poverty at a faster rate than what's going on right now. So again, I'm not answering your question, but I do think there's a role for the private sector to bring in some innovative solutions to help us develop these countries.
Wow, that's very insightful. I think we have maybe one question in the chat, and I think we're gonna wrap it up with questions afterward. It's a bit of a two-parter, but the question from Omanika Adams is asking how you stressed how there wasn't, you didn't feel like academia was for you, but were there any lessons that you learned while you were there that kind of have helped you in your work now? And kind of as a piggyback question and follow up from my earlier question, what you mentioned how it was difficult to kind of find that one person or group of people to kind of lift you up or like bounce ideas off of. What other coping mechanisms were you using or having when like throughout this process in particular? Yes.
Okay, so the first one was, were there any lessons learned from my time in academia? No. And I only say that because I feel like I just wasn't ready, right? So I don't know how long I've been out, maybe 10, 12 years from my first academic position. I say now I could go back to academia and I think I'd be all right, right? I'd feel more comfortable in the classroom. I have 15 years of experience of doing work in development that I could bring into the classroom. I have quite a few publications, I could come up with a research agenda, right? There's a lot that I feel like I can take into academia with me. At the time, I just wasn't ready. And I think, I say this, and I know this is also recorded, but, I think my advisors and mentors gave me bad advice. I was not ready, and I'm pretty sure they knew I was not ready to go, to go into academia. And I wish the advice would have been to take a postdoc, right? Yes, you have this tenure track position available to you, but take some time, focus on your research or focus on your teaching or whatever it may be, and use that time with a postdoc or maybe some other advice. I know there's a number of faculty here on the call. please listen to your students. I know our experience or your experience tends to be focused on academia, but connect your students with people outside of academia if they're interested in a career outside of academia or express some interest, right? Give them the opportunity to make informed decisions that's best for their well-being, versus, you know, you are able to put, like I sent someone to this great prestigious college. The second question, what was this? The second question, if you can remind me real quickly.
Oh yeah, it's basically like what did you do to kind of cope with like not having the support groups, or even more so when you were in Ethiopia or Tanzania, how did you bridge that gap?
Yeah, you know, I think what was really, really great for me, and again, I kind of felt like for my first 3 years, I was just kind of in this bad space. So it's really hard for me to reflect or generate lessons from that time. But that opportunity in Ethiopia was just really, really amazing and valuable for me, right? I have a number of co-authors that came from my time there. As I said, you know, the work that I was doing was there was interest by the government. You know, there was just, and there were so many more ideas from just being there that I had to set a research agenda. And so I think the other thing is, oftentimes you kind of live in this bubble where you think you're the only one. When I started actually communicating some of the challenge I was facing, the feelings I was going through with peers of mine that I thought just had it made, I realized that they were going through some of the exact same feelings and challenges that I was going through. And I would have never known, right? If I had not said something and they shared it with me. And so one of the things that I guess I can say is, don't be afraid to talk to someone about what you're feeling. Don't be afraid to talk to someone about the doubts that you might be having, right? Don't be afraid to ask for help. Because for so long I didn't do that. And by the time I finally started talking about it, I realized that almost everyone that I talked to was going through similar situations, and we could have probably been more support for each other had we known that at the time.
No, that was a really great answer. Thank you so much for answering all our questions and giving us this amazing insight and wisdom.
Yeah.
But I will let Bitch Marsha take it away from here. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, Marsha, whenever you're ready, you can start the presentation. But I did just want to say a couple of things. And Zing and I have known each other a long time, and I remember when she was teaching. And I think one thing that I'm happy about our economics department is that we talk, at least in the graduate program. I'm the director of graduate studies. I talk to students about what kind of job they want to have and what they have to do to get to that space, right? And hopefully our students appreciate that it's not like that everywhere in economics, and the kind of hands-on talking that we do in our department, it isn't the norm. So it looks like B. Marsha's camera's not working, but if your mic's working, you could go ahead and start.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, I'm having technical issues with my camera. Sorry. So, good evening, Dr. Swinton, Dr. Ruben Patterson, professors, HUDEA members, and fellow students. It's a privilege to be among all the people that have been amazing mentors who have helped students like me to navigate the world of economics. Today, I also have the privilege of thanking Dr. Nzinga Bruchard. Dr. Bruchard, thank you for sharing your expertise and enriching our understanding of the academic realm. As someone aspiring to pursue a graduate program in development economics, your insights into the challenges and the learnings of this field were both refreshing and enlightening. I'd like to acknowledge Dr. Bruchard's involvement with the Millennium Challenge Corporation, or the MCC. As someone from Nepal, I'm aware of the substantial and somewhat controversial presence and the impact of the MCC in my country. The organization's effort in promoting economic growth and poverty reductions will hopefully be instrumental in transforming the lives of many Nepali citizens. On behalf of everyone present here today, I extend our heartfelt appreciation to Dr. Bruchard for her exceptional presentation and for her time. In recognition of her valuable contribution, we present her with the plaque as a token of our gratitude. Once again, thank you, Dr. Bruchard, for your dedication, your expertise, and for gracing us with your presence. Your work continues to inspire us all. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And thanks for the plaque.
So if everybody could give Dr. Broussard a hand of applause for her time and effort for coming out. So we're going to continue with the program, which is a part of honoring our students, and we're going to start with a presentation from Dr. Vincent McDonald to recognize our senior recognition award winner. Dr. McDonald.
Thank you, Dr. Swinton. Chair Swinton, Dean Patterson, Dr. Broussard, Ms. Robinson, President of ODE, and the members of ODE, members of the faculty, my retiree colleagues, and members of ODE. Once again, I'm delighted to share this occasion as you celebrate the induction into ODE Honor Society, one of the world's largest academic honor societies. Some 50 years ago, this department, in an environment in which the availability and the existence of programs and opportunities for minority students to seek the highest degrees in the study of economics was rather limited. The department stepped in by providing programs highest level to educate and share with students the opportunities and the possibilities the discipline provides. Today, this effort, I'm sure, continues. That of providing students with the tools necessary to contribute to public discourse and hold positions in academia, as well as those dealing with national and international issues, especially those facing minorities. I think Dr. Broussard's presentation dramatically provides evidence of the opportunities that are available with the basics of economics. My impulse for this award, listed under my name, came following my retirement from this department some 22 years ago. It is but a small effort to encourage undergraduate economic majors who, through their academic achievements, as well as their outside activities, will provide the impetus for continuing studies in the discipline. And I suppose a bit of selfishness on my part, in that I'd like to see them in economics. But which training will provide them with the tools and the opportunities to contribute within their field of interest. Tonight, I am pleased to recognize Mr. Chioke Bellamy, who has been identified by the department as the 2023 Senior Recognition Award winner. Mr. Bellamy is presented as being curious and analytical. He has a 3.8 GPA.
So it looks like we lost Dr. Donaldson, but he was going to go through and give all the great achievements that Mr. Bellamy had. But Mr. Bellamy, if you'd like to take a couple of seconds and just accept your recognition from HUDA, or if somebody else from HUDA would like to step in and finish the presentation.
Okay, so yes, I am Chioke Bellamy. I'm a senior econ major from Norristown, Pennsylvania. And I would like to thank FUDA, the economic faculty, and all else involved for selecting me for this recognition. I'm greatly honored, and studying economics here at Howard has been probably, or actually definitely the most learning experience of my life. So I've really enjoyed it these last 3 to 4 years, and I just can't wait to take what I've learned and use it out in the field.
Thank you, and congratulations on your award.
Thank you.
So Dr. Green, are you ready?
Okay. Dr. Broussard, Dean Patterson, Dr. Swinton, ODE inductees, HUDA President Hazel Robinson, and colleagues and students, thank you for this opportunity to say a few words about our esteemed colleague, the late Dr. Ransford W. Palmer, who passed away this year. I wanted to begin with just 2 words, tradition and progress. Now, these words mean for our department a tradition of progress. From the beginnings of Black higher education at Howard University shortly after the Civil War, to the heights of economic scholarship and PhD education at Howard University. The long blue line of economic scholars, leaders, and instruction at Howard University began with the very first courses of economics in 1867. Then as now, the university understood the importance of economic analysis in popular affairs. In 1907, Edward Parks began the tradition of economic leaders at Howard holding many key administrative posts at the university in addition to his primary role as professor of economics. He advanced the institutionalist economics in the then new tradition of American Economic Association founders Edwin Seligman and Richard Ely. A leap forward for the long blue line came almost a century ago in 1927 with the arrival of Abram Harris to head the department. He brought on board many engaged economists with a strong pro-labor focus. In addition to leading the economics field with his vast scholarship, Harris was also a leader in the formation of the graduate school at Howard University in the early 1930s. And he launched the master's degree in economics at that time. So see, once again, we have a tradition of progress continued with the leadership of the economics department. Moving forward then to the demands for racial justice in the 1960s, Black economists were determined to launch a PhD program at Howard University. And who answered the call to lead this effort? Dr. Ransford W. Palmer. So who was this man who took the tradition of progress to the highest possible level in the academy? Dr. Palmer passed away this year at the age of 90, leaving behind his beloved wife of 58 years, 3 accomplished adult children, and 3 grandchildren, and innumerable colleagues and friends. He received a PhD in economics at Clark University in Massachusetts, joined the faculty at Catholic University, and was then recruited, largely by Dr. McDonald, to chair the department at Howard and take the helm of the challenging task of launching the first and only PhD program at an HBCU. He retired in 2013 after 40 years of service to Howard. He gifted us all with his memoirs detailing his life's journey. Beyond the Horizon, a Jamaican immigrant chases his dream in America. That's also available on Amazon.com if you're interested. His primary field of research was Caribbean economic development, beginning with his first book in 1968, The Jamaican Economy, and concluding with his 8th and last scholarly book, The Repositioning of U.S.-Caribbean Relations in the New World Order in 1997. As part of his service to the community, Dr. Palmer chaired the board of directors of the National Coalition on Caribbean Affairs, spearheading many of this organization's initiatives with the federal government, the OAS, United Nations, the Trans-Africa Forum, and the Ralph Bunche Center right here at Howard University. The highlight of his leadership, though, and for what we remember him most, was his leadership in founding and guiding the PhD program. Under his leadership, the program took on the broad vision of economic development, both in urban areas in the United States and in the Africa diaspora more broadly. Since the first economics PhD was awarded in 1980, over 150 students have gone on to earn a Howard PhD in economics, including over 90 African Americans. These proud sons and daughters of Howard have gone on to careers in academia, research, and government, both in the US and internationally. This is a powerful legacy of Dr. Palmer's indeed. His example of following the long blue line of a tradition of progress remains a bright beacon for our faculty and the department to follow as we sail life's increasingly rugged seas. Thank you very much.
Thank you for those words, and I would like to acknowledge Dr. Palmer's son, who is on the meeting tonight, who many of us saw at the funeral, and this is the legacy that your father is leaving the Department of Economics and the growth that we're having. We're always trying to get better, and we're always trying to be better than we were, and so we do appreciate the groundwork that was laid down by your father. Once again, thank you, and you have our condolences. So next, Aji, if you're ready.
Yes, I'm ready. Actually, I'm so glad Dr. Green had the chance to do this. We are relearning again the importance of the department and the legacy that Dr. Palmer, among others, including him, has paved the way for all of us. And we will miss Dr. Palmer because I was around when he was around. So we're just, yeah. So it's like picking it up from here. I'm filled with emotions now, but I'll try. So good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Thanks again. My name is Aji Fatou Jain. I am a graduate of the economics department, both master's and PhD. PhD in 2018, and I currently work at the Center for Economic Studies at the Census Bureau. And every year, Howard University Economics Department Alumni Association provides a travel award to a student in the department to attend the ASSA NEA meetings in January of every year. This year's conference was held in New Orleans, and HUDA provides a stipend to help the students with travel costs and just overall support for them to attend. And we always had have a president and some other HUDA members to attend the conference and support the students while they're there. And tonight I have the pleasure to introduce the recipient of the Graduate Travel Award to Miss Bahar Eftehari, and she's on tonight. Bahar has successfully defended her dissertation this past Friday. It was titled Essays on Alternative Financial Services and Social Security. So congratulations, Bahar.
Thank you so much.
And she will graduate this May, so yay. Great job. And I just, feel free to come on actually and present your plaque. We were able to mail plaque to Bahar, so she will say a few words, but congratulations, Bahar.
Thank you so much, Aji. Hi, everyone. I want to thank Howard University Economics Department and Alumni Association for sending me this beautiful award. It's very valuable, and each time I look at it, it brings back a good memory for me. Thank you so much. Thank you for this beautiful award.
Great job.
Thank you.
All right, so next on the program will be the reason for the event today is the presentation of the new ODE members, Omicron Delta Epsilon. Dr. Hunt.
Yes. Thank you, Dr. Swinton, Dr. Reuben Patterson, Dean at the College of Arts and Sciences, Dr. Boussard, our guest speaker, our current and past professors of the economics department, President of HUDA, Hazel Robinson, members of HUDA, economic students in the Department of Economics, greetings. My task this evening is to introduce our new inductees into the internationally recognized Honor Society of Economics, ODE. ODE is one of the world's largest academic honor societies. It has over 700 chapters located in many universities across the United States and around the world. Our chapter at Howard University began in 1954. So next year, our beta chapter will be celebrating 70 years on the campus of Howard University. The objectives of HUDA are as follows: recognizing the scholastic achievements and honoring the outstanding achievements in economics, establish closer ties between students and faculty in economics within and among colleges and universities, publish articles in economics in its official academic journal, The American Economist, sponsor panels at professional meetings in economics, and organize and manage ODE graduate and undergraduate research award competitions. All members of ODE have access to a network of colleagues, and this can be useful for building one's career in this important social science. I would like to encourage students to join our ODE chapter, as it is among the first set of indicators about growing professionalism in economics. The only criteria for membership are a minimum GPA of no less than 3.0 or higher in economics, and a minimum of 12 credits in economics for undergraduate students, and 9 credits for graduate students with a GPA of no less than 3.0. Let me now introduce our 5 new ODE members: Ominika Adams, Tefebayo Ajay, Shioki Bellamy, James Rampasad, and Alexander Taylor. May I also take this opportunity to introduce our ODE committee for this year and next year: President Judine Josephs, Vice President Tefebayo Ajay, Secretary Ominika Adams, Treasurer James Rampasad. Finally, congratulations to our ODE members who are graduating this year: James Rampasad and Chioki Bellamy. With this being said, I'd like to congratulate each and every one of you. Keep up the good work. Thank you very much.
So I could only spotlight the members who had their cameras on, but the others are on the call as well. So if we can congratulate all the new inductees to ODE.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everybody. I also wanted to just mention here, thank you to Dr. Hunt for your communication throughout this entire process. Dr. Hunt, you were one of the most genuine professors I've ever had at Howard. So I just want to thank you for your work. Dr. Swinton, your work as the chairperson of economics, much respect for you. Dr. Broussard, I respect all that you said in the keynote. I definitely want to incorporate more Black CEOs in the workplace, more Black women CEOs in the future. Also wanted to give a shout out to my other professors, Dr. Daniels, Dr. Baglin, one of the hardest working people I've ever seen in my life. Also want to give another shout out to Dr. Rowe, who's in this call right now. Dr. Rowe, you were at the lecture last year, and I had connected. You were one of the first major figures that I connected with on LinkedIn. And when I connected with you, I was like so perplexed because I loved exactly what you were talking about in the meeting last year and how empowered I felt from your words. So I want to thank you for being here again, Dr. Rowe. And thank you, Mr. McDonald. You had cut off earlier, but I want to thank you as well for your words, Dr. Grooms. So I'm ready for the world now. Once I graduate, I'm ready to start my journey now. Thanks to you guys. So much respect.
Thank you for the kind words. That's one of the reasons all of us are at Howard to kind of have an impact and to see the impact that we can have in the future going forward. Once again, congratulations to all the awardees from ODE. So this is going to bring us to Dr. Betsy, who's going to do a presentation. And Dr. Betsy, are you ready?
Yes, I am.
All right.
Thank you, Dr. Swinton, and thank you, Dean Patterson, for joining the event tonight. I'd like to thank Dr. Broussard for her presentation and say hello and thank you to all the ODE members, the HUDA members, current faculty and emeritus faculty, and the students who have been honored tonight, as well as the other students who might be on the call. I wanted to add my personal comments on Dr. Blank's retirement to the formal appreciation that's part of tonight's program that Dr. Swinton has shared in the chat. When Dr. Green asked me a few days ago to share some comments about Dr. Blank, I said I'd be glad to do that, but I wanted to share some that he could put into the departmental statement, but also had some personal remembrances that I wanted to share as well. Dr. Blank and I were colleagues in the labor economics field during my 25 years on the Howard faculty. She and I were also office neighbors for most of that time, with her office being almost directly across the hall from my faculty office. So in addition to sharing course syllabi and thoughts about the labor and the economics of Black community development courses that we both taught, we had exchanges about non-academic endeavors as well over many years. One of Emily's areas of expertise is in the area of econometrics and manipulation of large data sets. That expertise is reflected in several scholarly articles that were contributions to the field of labor and microeconometrics. Her expertise has been helpful to her faculty colleagues in their research, as well as to Howard students whom she has mentored. I'll just say a few words about several of the articles that I think are among her more notable contributions and which demonstrate the nature and scope of Emily's research interests. In 1999, Dr. Blank published an article in the Journal of Industrial Relations titled Pension Type and Retirement Wealth, and it utilized the longitudinal health and retirement study to analyze the impact of the shift from defined benefit to defined contribution retirement programs on retirement wealth. And this article has been cited by numerous articles, by numerous authors subsequently, who followed up and verified her conclusions using different data sets, but also pointing to the substantial impact that this shift of types of retirement programs has had on retirement wealth that Americans hold. In a 1989 article titled Changes in the Stock of On-the-Job Training, Race and Wage Growth, Dr. Blank published an article in the Review of Black Political Economy that analyzed the rate of return to on-the-job training investment, and in particular, the different rates of return faced by whites and non-whites. Using the panel study of income dynamics, another longitudinal survey that looked at the tenure on a particular job and on the amount of time necessary for the average person to become proficient on that job. The results suggested that the rate of return to an additional month of training is actually higher for non-whites than for whites, which shed new light on this important issue. And then the final study I'll mention is an article that Dr. Blank published in 2005 titled Racial Discrimination in Mortgage Lending in Washington, D.C., a Mixed Methods Approach. And in that article, Dr. Blank did, as the title suggested, and used mixed methods consisting of 3 different statistical analyses combined with interviews of financial institution officials to assess racial discrimination in mortgage lending in Washington, D.C. That paper, co-authored with a Howard PhD student, Padma Venkatachalam, sorry, Padma, if you're here, concludes with practical guidelines for community organizations that deal with fair lending issues at the nation's capital. And it was an important article because of that. As department chair and a faculty colleague, I observed and appreciated Emily's commitment to the success of our Howard students, to her research, and to her various departmental and university service roles. I will also say that Emily's contributions within the department and more broadly to society have not just been through her academic expertise. Emily also quietly advocates in her off time on behalf of immigrant rights, prisoner education, and tenants' rights, as well as recently on behalf of adjunct and part-time faculty. Finally, as was mentioned, Emily is a cantor. That's mentioned in her the written document that is shared with you on tonight's program. And she regularly officiates in ceremonies at her own synagogue and elsewhere. As her office neighbor over the years, I was reminded by Emily's closed door and her lilting voice that the Jewish High Holy Days were approaching. It became a note on my academic calendar, and Emily's singing is a memory that I treasure. Emily, Margaret and I congratulate you on your retirement, and wish you the best for the future.
Dr. Blank, did you want to say anything? You're muted, Dr. Blank.
Thank you so much for those kind words. It was a privilege being colleagues with you. And I remember fondly my meetings with you too, Margaret. So many thanks.
All the best.
So I do want to say just one word about Dr. Blank. Dr. Blank, I think was the first faculty member that I met when I came to Howard. And people say I look young now, but when I started at Howard, I looked really young. And you know, I'm really gonna miss Dr. Blank because even my whole time as chair or the whole time in the department, she's always been willing to help. And people always talk about how you don't have good colleagues in economics departments. I can't think of a better colleague I've had at my time other than Dr. Blank for the advice and the guidance that she's given me throughout my career. So we're really going to be sad to see you go. We're never going to be able to replace you, but we're going to try to continue on to keep your legacy going on for the department.
Thank you, Dr. Blank. Well
deserved. It has been an honor and it has been the honor and the privilege of my life to work in the economics department at Howard University. It's been very good to me.
So next we're gonna have Hazel Robinson, the president of HUDA, deliver remarks on behalf of HUDA.
Thank you, Dr. Swinton. I'm gonna share my screen. Can you see this?
Yes.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. I am Hazel Robinson, class of 1979, BA in 1987, MA, and I'm the president of the Howard University Economics Department Alumni Association. This is where I ask you to kick off your shoes, unloosen your tie, and get comfortable, because I have several subjects to cover in a short amount of time. Dr. Swinton, I'm going to need at least 10 minutes, and you will see and hear the reasons why. But I hope everyone has enjoyed the lecture so far, the ODE. Every year we come back and we look forward to sharing and being with everyone. What is HUDA? And first, I want all the HUDA members to recognize themselves. And you could just go to the reaction button and put the little Valentine so we can know who you are. But HUDA is an alumni association whose members are graduates of the Department of Economics. We started in 2001, and we have been going strong for the past 22 years. The mission of HUDA is to provide advice and support to the faculty and students of the Economics Department. We have 4 standing committees: the Career Development, Awards, Public Relations, and the Finance Committee. Our officers are myself, the President, Vice President, Dr. Charles Thorpe, Secretary, Ms. Yuloma Chiakpo, and Treasurer, Ms. Patricia Lott-Smith, and our unofficial archivist and historian, Dr. Sandra Cook Hull, and our unofficial photographer, Dr. Gwendolyn Flowers. Our chairperson of the Career Development is Ms. Alberta Baker. The chairperson for the Awards Committee is Dr. Aji Fatou Diang. The chairperson for the Public Relations is Dr. Linda Jones, and the chairperson of the Finance Committee is vacant. We are responsible for the Graduate Travel Stipend Award and the Dr. Vincent R. McDonald Senior Recognition Award. And in the past, when Dr. Palmer was chairman, the Chairman's Prize. We have accomplished many worthwhile things, from career development seminars, student care packages, support of the department at the ASSA/NEA meetings, ODE support like tonight. But our crown jewels of accomplishments are the establishment of the Distinguished Alumni Award and our 2 endowed funds, the Dr. Joseph R. Houchins Endowed Scholarship Fund for undergraduate students and the Dr. Jean-Louis Ducamo Bocage Endowed Loan Fund for graduate students. Membership in HUDA is a good benefit and a solid investment in your future and the department's future. We would like every graduate, especially our graduating seniors, master students, and PhD, to join HUDA today. For those who have been sitting on the sidelines or on the bench, it is now time for you to get active and engage. And you can see on the slide, there are some benefits of being a member of HUDA. Of course, if you join HUDA, you become a part of a global professional network of economists, because we're all over the world, excuse me. It's a good way to keep up with your professors, keep up with the department and old college friends. It's an opportunity to invest in our emerging economists. As you can see, we're launching a new class 2023. So to join today, you can email us at our email account, huda@hotmail.com, for an application. And here in this particular slide, you see us in action. To the left, we had a group of us to attend the Allied Social Science Association meetings. That was back in 2014, of course, that's several years ago. And this happened to be in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And to the right, we have a group of Abraham Harris students. They was at the International Monetary Funds for a Career Development Day. Our endowed loan and scholarship funds. There are several reasons why we gather each spring at the ODE lecture. Normally, we would meet in person and have a dinner and then a lecture. We meet to honor our new ODE inductees into the International Economics Honor Society. Hear a great speaker, honor our faculty, students, and alumni, but also to raise monies for our 2 endowed funds, the Dr. Bocage and Houchins Fund for our students. Here is some brief information about the 2. And since most of the people in this Zoom meeting have not heard or do not know the 2, let me quickly tell you some quick facts about them. Okay. You can see Dr. Bocage over there to the right. This is an old photo of him. And a couple of things I just wanted you to know about him is that Dr. Bocage is well known for teaching the history of economic analysis to graduate level economic students. Dr. Bocage taught this course with so much passion and energy that he literally brought to life the economists in various schools of economic thought, because he was the chairman of the department, acting chairman, and also chairman of the social sciences division. And he was very instrumental and very productive in the ODE. This is a picture of Dr. Houchins. And for Dr. Houchins, He lived till he was 89 years old. He got his degree from Cornell University. And also he was in the Black cabinet of Franklin Delano Roosevelt. And we know him very well because after his official retirement, he still came to campus. Dr. Houchins continued to travel to campus almost daily. He conducted recruitment for the department and eagerly offered advice and guidance to students, whether they were searching for employment, financial aid, housing, or even tutorial assistance. And see, this is how you can give once this meeting is over. You can go to the website at Howard University and go to giving.howard.edu, select other, and then just type in the names of the two funds, the Bacard Endowed Loan Fund or the Dr. Houchins Scholarship Fund. So as of tonight, because we asked people to contribute to the funds, hopefully that number has increased. But when I checked the last time, we had collected $2,171 for the endowed fund. Now, I would do quickly a tribute to Dr. Bransford Palmer. I say Huda style. Dr. Palmer meant so much to the students who studied economics in the department, who later became alumni. Dr. Palmer was one of our favorite professors. We knew that he had our best interests at heart, and like any good professor, he wanted his students to produce at Howard, or importantly, produce in the world. It was under his chairmanship on April 27, 2001, 22 years ago to the day, that Huda was birthed. Dr. Palmer knew exactly how he wanted to use Huda as he gave us his 11-item to-do list. The truth is, he was the one who taught us how to be alumni. Because when we looked over that list he gave us, every item on that list costs money. And because of that, at least for myself, I feel like I should always give simply because Howard and the department needed me, needed us. They gave us so much and it's still giving. And we just owe a debt of gratitude to the department, for we indeed are the alumni, the children, the offspring, the product, the results of this department. We, the alumni, say thank you, Dr. Palmer. We remember 2013 when you retired from Howard and we gave you the great send-off. The memories of that retirement party today continues to warm our hearts. We can say tonight, sleep well, our dear professor, for you have earned your rest. Now, here are a few photos of Dr. Palmer's remarkable career at Howard and his interaction with Huda. And forgive me up front if I don't know everybody who's in the picture. Okay, this particular picture is at his retirement. And to the far left is, I know that's Jeff, I guess that's your sister, I'm not sure. And then down below is Dr. Palmer and his wife, and then of course, Dr. Palmer. And this was the group photo at his retirement party. You see Dr. Green in the picture, and is that, I think Dr. Kerbin and Dr. Palmer. In the middle, I know that's Dr. Wanzi Okidebi. This is actually at an ODE dinner lecture with Dr. Bremer, who was our speaker for that particular lecture that year. And you can see Dr. Palmer to the right, and Dr. McDonald and Dr. Spriggs is in, and Dr. Hunt, excuse me. That's a young looking Dr. Hunt. Here's another photo with Dr. Spriggs and Dr. Palmer. It's at another ODE lecture, dinner lecture in the Blackburn. And this is Dr. Everson Hall with Dr. Palmer. Dr. Everson Hall is our first PhD graduate from the program. I believe this is the boat ride that Huda had for their 10-year anniversary, because we invited Dr. Palmer. And this is at the retirement salute for Dr. Palmer at the ODE lecture And this is Dr. Palmer and his family. This is the beginning of HUDA, and you can see Dr. Palmer sitting to the right. I believe this won the chairman prize, I believe, and this is up in the room 316 of the department, which was our conference room. I understand it looks much better now. Okay, Dr. Hunt and his wife and Dr. Palmer. This is a group shot at the ODE dinner lecture. I hope you pick out yourselves. This is the chairman prize again with Dr. Palmer. And this is at Dr. McDonald's retirement luncheon, I believe at B. Smith. And of course, Dr. Palmer attended that. Because when Dr. McDonald said he's been retired for 22 years, I say, that's exactly right, because it was 22 years when we were started. Okay, so that concludes the tribute to Dr. Palmer, and I hope y'all appreciate it and just got some insight on what type of man he was and what type of professor he was and how loved he was here at Howard University. Tonight, I want to recognize a special HUDA member who has been with us from our birth, always gave us unwavering support, leadership, cool demeanor, logical thinking, and just a great person to be around and have fun with. HUDA is proud of him and his accomplishments, both personally and professionally. Here are a few things he has done. Been vice president for 20 of the 22 years of our existence, hosted the Howard Economic students at the FAA forecast conferences, worked on the awards committee forever and a day, standing for me when I'm unavailable, always been calm, cool, and collective. He knows how to close the deal and keep HUDA moving forward when we get stuck in making decisions. I know by now some HUDA members know who I'm talking about. Dr. Charles O. Thorpe Jr. But for those who don't know, well, he's our very own affable, industrial, committed vice president. And that's him standing between Dr. Spriggs and myself. I don't know if Charles is in the room or not, because I know he's traveling to North Carolina to pick up his granddaughter from college. And this is the plaque that he will be receiving, recognizing his leadership and commitment to the organization for since our inception. So we do appreciate Charles and all what he's done for us. I want to say a thank you to everyone. I will be remiss if I did not mention that HUDA mourns the loss of one of our own, Dr. Anthony Ekoto Osei, who transitioned on March 23rd, 2023. He was a Ghanaian banker and politician. He was in the cabinet of President John Kufuor, first as Minister of State for Finance and Economic Planning, and then as Acting Minister of Finance. He was a member of parliament for the electoral district of Old Tafo in the Ashanti region. He graduated from Howard University in 1987 with a PhD in economics. We will miss him and we will continue to pray for his family for their strength. I want to thank HUDA, the faculty and students of the department for supporting the ODE lecture. Congratulations to all of our new ODE inductees. Congratulations to all of our honorees. Thank you to our speaker, Dr. Nzinga Broussard, and a special thank you to our chairman, Dr. Omari Swinton, for the outstanding work he is doing with the department. Thank you to the College of Arts and Sciences and the graduate school, and to all of the friends and fans of the department. Thank you. Just a couple of quick announcements. The Department of Economics and HUDA will present a graduates reception on Tuesday, May 2nd at the Louis Stokes Health Science Library on the 4th floor. And then on May 25th, HUDA will have their closeout meeting for the school year, 7 p.m. on Zoom. Well, this concludes the presentation.
thank you, Hazel. And I can't say enough about all the hard work that HUDA does behind the scenes to support the graduate students and the students in the department and the faculty. And, you know, they've been doing it for a long time and they're looking for new people to join. So those of you who are graduating, please come to HUDA meetings and come and help give back to the department that's given so greatly to you. And so the last person who will speak is our Director of Undergraduate Studies, Dr. Dennis Baglin, and he'll deliver the closing remarks on behalf of the department.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Dennis Baglin, and I am the Director of Undergraduate Studies in the Economics Department. I want to thank all of you for being here tonight, and I would like to take a moment to express my gratitude to some of the individuals who have made this event possible. Firstly, I would like to thank Dean Patterson for his attendance and remarks tonight. Secondly, I want to extend a sincere thank you to our keynote speaker, Dr. Broussard, for sharing your insights, experience, and expertise with us. Next, I want to express my appreciation to the Harvard University Department of Economics Alumni Association, Department of Economics faculty, Harvard Department of Economics alumni, and our graduate and undergraduate students for their participation and support. I would like to take a moment to honor Dr. Blank, who is retiring after serving 38 years in the economics department. Dr. Blank has been an integral part of our department, serving as the Director of Undergraduate Studies before me, and the coordinator for the community development major. Her dedication and passion for her work have been an inspiration to us all. Her legacy will undoubtedly continue to inspire us for the years to come. Finally, I have a few words to our graduating students. I offer my heartfelt congratulations on this significant accomplishment. You have worked hard and persevered through challenges to arrive at this moment. I wish you the best as you move on to the next chapter of your life. I would like to remind you that the Department of Economics faculty are not graduating. You know where to find us if you need anything. We will be more than happy to support you in any way we can. Thank you.